How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle. I'm here with Dion Talk Financial Freedom. But what we're going to talk about today is the ugly side of real estate investing, the unfortunate side of real estate investing that you probably don't hear about enough when people are talking to you about the very sexy BRRRR strategy or fix and flips. Dion's doing his first BRRRR right now. I've done a couple of remodels and BRRRRs over 2022 and 2023, and we're going to talk about all the money we are just dumping out and how, at least for me, demoralizing it can be over time. But what I'm keeping my eye on is that light at the end of the tunnel that is beautiful cash flow waiting for me. So Dion, tell us a little bit about your BRRRR, the new one you're moving into.
You mean my last BRRRR?
It's first and last BRRRR.
So whenever I hear somebody talking about getting into real estate and they say something like, I don't want to be a landlord because you have to pay to fix things, I literally have the opposite opinion. I look forward to this. Currently, what I have is my BRRRR going on. I had a military tenant, got orders to move out of the area, so I had a tenant turnover where I did flooring, paint, a lot of my banister work. I had a septic issue at another property where it needed a pretty big overhaul. So I'm probably out around, I would think around $100,000. I think we were talking earlier, that's about what you've spent this year.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds significant. Sounds like, oh, I don't want to put $100,000 out. I bought the BRRRR with the intention of putting $50,000 into it. I have $80,000 set aside to do that. So I'm intending to put this in there because it's going to create over $250,000 in extra value in this property. It's going to generate cash flow after this repair is done. The tenant turnover, the flooring and the paint at the unit where I just spent probably around, I think eight to $9,000. I have to get the receipts together to do this. I didn't pay for. That tenant that has lived there since before 2018, part of the gross rent from that unit has been being set aside to pay for this. So that tenant paid for the unit to be prepared for the next tenant that is now seeing a $450 increase from where the rent previously was. And the septic repair is the same thing. It's at a place where the tenants over the last several years have been paying rents, where I take a portion, 15% of gross rents being set aside into an account for those expenses. So my tenants put in a brand new septic system for me to protect and add longevity to the asset that I own. So while some new investors look at those expenses and they think this really sucks, where's my cash flow? The money that you're investing, this $100,000, is going to generate cash flow for years, and a disciplined owner will take a portion of those gross rents, setting it aside for the expenses that are going to come up in the future.
So what I think is very interesting, and one of the reasons why I like my channel and what I try to do with my channel, is to be relentlessly honest and transparent. Dion paid for that $100,000 he's pushed out this year from existing cash flow reserves and money that he set aside, because he's been investing for 12, 13 years now. Longer than me, right? Me, I'm about to hit year 5 in like the next week. Will be my 5-year anniversary of investing in real estate. Now, I bought a triplex and a duplex this year. That's 5 units. And I knew I was going to have to do remodel, repairs, value add. I then had 3 houses turn over, all 3 of them unexpected. Didn't expect them to turn this year. Was baffled that they turned over because people were paying $200, $300, $400 below what market rents are. I thought they wouldn't be giving that up no matter what, but they did. Now, I'm not unhappy about it because now I get to take rents up, but not before I got to pay the piper, which comes in remodels. And on a couple of these were slum properties that I had purchased, knowing that I was going to turn them into beautiful rentals when the tenant moved out. I just didn't expect it to happen so quick. So I kind of had this perfect storm of 8 units being worked on and remodeled in a single year. Unexpected. And it's been about $100,000. Now, the reason I tell you all this backstory is because I went about paying for it differently than Dion. He's absolutely right. I have been setting aside a portion of my monthly rent in vacancies, maintenance, and repairs. However, I hadn't set aside $100,000 worth of vacancies, maintenance, and repairs because I've only owned these rentals for a little bit of time, and 5 of those units I bought and they have nobody living in them. So what I've done is use my home equity line of credit to fund these repairs, which means that I'm stacking more and more debt on myself. Now, I want Dion to critique me about that because I think a lot of people would say, oh, that's risky, is it dumb? So you got any questions for me about that?
Well, I have 2 things to point out. The first thing is when you're growing your portfolio, we've talked several times in the past about the 2 options. One is recycling capital, taking out home lines of credit, cash out refinance, sale for 1031, or ways to redeploy the capital versus the strategy mine is less sexy, more boring, takes longer, of recycling the cash flow. I would look at the way Marcus Shiro, our friend, the financial firefighter, did in Hawaii, where he emptied out all of his retirement accounts and purchased 14 rentals in less than 2 years. And then he had 8 tenant turnovers and some evictions.
Right.
So what I would think is, as you're scaling your portfolio, one of my goals is to not be over levered. So what is your overall leverage position when you look at your entire portfolio? In a growing portfolio, I like to maintain about 70% loan to value. I retired last year, so now I'm trying to stay around 50%, which means I need to add some debt to my portfolio. And your reserves, in my opinion, should scale with the size of your portfolio. When I had 7 units or less, $10,000 in the bank was plenty. I could handle a tenant turnover, a roof, a vacancy. When I had between 7 and 16, I increased that to 30,000. And then when I retired last year, I increased it to 50,000, sitting in an account that doesn't get touched unless I have things like a tenant turnover or have to go through an eviction or maybe grow it more to buy the next BRRRR. So what is your equity position and what do your reserves look like as you're growing your portfolio?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My equity position, I actually would say that I probably am right about that 75% LTV overall. So I'm not super unhappy with that, but most of that comes from the fact that I have bought properties so well. When you pick up a $20,000 duplex that the day I bought it was worth 60, and now that I'm done remodeling it, it's worth 120. My equity position on that one duplex, I just picked up 120,000 worth of equity. But I got to go to the bank. I can't do anything with that equity until I go to the bank and put some sort of loan on it and get a check, and now I can pay off other debts. Or go to a private lender and get a check and pay off some of the other debts for the remodeling cost. So if I actually look at my equity position, I'm within these healthy margins, but it doesn't mean anything until I go put some fixed rate debt on it. Because right now, my variable debt is my home equity line of credit. Now, for those of you out there who are wondering, home equity line of credit, I have the ability to pay interest only. That's why I have such a low payment on that HELOC. But what you really want to do with the HELOC is figure out how to convert it to fixed rate debt as quickly as possible. This is not a long-term strategy to leave money on interest only, because at some point you got to pay the principal. So that's what I'm going to do when this is what I did last year when I did 2 BRRRR strategies. I ran the HELOC all the way up, BRRRR'd out 2 properties, ran it back down to 0. Now I've run it up again, and I'm waiting to BRRRR out and put it back down to 0. But interest rates suck. Banks are tightening lending. Who knows? So that was the first question, was the equity position. Second question was
What do your reserves look like?
Great question. So reserves, what I would want for my portfolio right now would be $40,000 cash in reserves. That will handle a couple of roofs, any number of different plumbing issues, a foundation issue. Had an unfortunate foundation issue that I was telling you about earlier. $12,000 like that. And you know what sucks about things like plumbing? And I was telling this to Justin earlier. Plumbing, foundation, roofs, they don't improve the overall value of the property at all. So like when you do the BRRRR strategy, new floors, new kitchens, new bathrooms, new fixtures, new carpet, that stuff makes the property value go up. Oh, you fixed the foundation? Cool. Enjoy pouring $12,000 into the concrete mix that fixed the foundation. You'll never see it again. Value doesn't go. It just sucks. So I would recommend for my portfolio size, $40,000. I should handle any number of different problems without any major issues. What do you think?
I think it's a good plan. I think when we're first starting out in those first few years, it really feels like those expenses come out of our pocket.
Right.
Where the discipline pays off is in those first few years, if you are constantly setting aside a portion of gross rents, 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is, into an account that's set aside for future repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, you will actually get to the point where you look forward to having those vacancies and those problems.
Right.
And the really cool thing about making this video to get together at your house here is we did a video earlier with Justin from Kentucky, who in less than a couple of years has 18 rental units. And we were setting up the studio to do this video, and he's like, wait, you just put up a phone? Where's the teleprompter? Where's the information in the background? How do you guys keep all this in your head? That's the whole point. In order to reach financial freedom, I think you need to take in this content the way that we did the first few years, over and over and over until those numbers stick. How do you run your cash on cash return? What do reserves look like? How do you screen tenants? How do you find your leases? All of those things should be second nature to where you can just put up a phone, have a conversation, and not look like you have memory issues.
One day I'll let Dion do the outro, but not today. So until next time, thanks for coming to my Dion talk.